Cage Minds, Micah Frankel, joined right now by Wreck-It, Randy McCarty, going to be part of the main event, Fight World MMA 27. Thank you for the time, sir. It's been a while. How you doing?
It has been a while. I'm doing good, man.
Yeah, we've seen you still staying busy. I've seen you locally coaching fighters. Know that since the last time I talked to you, there's been a lot of boxing that you've been getting into. Let's start there. Why
Okay.
put such a heavy emphasis into your boxing career in the recent years?
There wasn't any exact decision. It just was what was available. The COVID happened, and in Mexico, there's not a lot of fights for MMA. I've only had two fights in MMA there, and I've had a lot of fights for boxing. And I just had an opportunity to be able to fight, and that was in the States. I wasn't getting any kind of fights. And so I needed to stay busy. And so that was that boxing it was.
And what was it like going from the MMA to fully just immersing yourself in the boxing world?
Uh, fight fight stance change is a big difference, and rounds. I mean, I only do have to do 3 minute rounds instead of five, so that makes it a lot easier, in my opinion. And all you don't have to worry about takedowns. You don't have to. All you have to worry about is hands, really.
And how do you feel all those rounds now in the ring have benefited you as a martial artist?
I think it helps me out a lot by understanding the setups. Like sometimes you go into fights and you're just trying to hit the guy, and you don't even know. Kind of, you're just kind of throwing stuff to throw stuff, and now I have things that set up my next punch. Set up everything comes off of my jab instead of just going out there and throwing punches, throwing hands and feet.
And I've talked about the boxing. That was really 2020, 2021, 2022 here. You've got back to MMA. Uh,
Yes.
did it feel different getting back to it after having so much time in the ring?
Uh, Maybe a little. The biggest thing was just making sure that my stance was back to an MMA style stance. And I mean, I train MMA. I've never stopped training, so it wasn't like I had a big disconnect or anything like that. It was just more of the excitement of an MMA fight is totally different. The mind preparation is in my head, at least for me, is a lot different than in boxing.
Well, then get into it. What's some of those differences in the mental preparation and getting yourself ready for the 3 5 minute rounds instead of the 4 or 6 3 minute rounds?
Well, patience is one thing, right? So you can't just go out there and go all out and only have 3 minutes and then get to recover for a minute. You have to pace yourself differently, and then you have to worry about kicks. You have to worry about takedowns. You have to worry about wild punches. Normally in boxing, you have really clean boxers. They aren't real wild. They get wild if you fluster them, but other than that, they're pretty clean punches. And then MMA, you don't get that. You get everything. It's pretty wild sometimes. So that it's a big difference. And you have the takedowns is a different story. You have your jujitsu. You have elbows and knees, and so it gets you kind of. I get the jitters about all the different ways you can get hurt. So you have to kind of coach yourself or pep talk yourself into going. You know what you're doing. You've been here. You've done the training. You've done the work. He's just as nervous about this as you are. Let's go do it.
In the same way of all that nervousness, it also opens up though your tool bag. You're able to go back to your judo, your jujitsu. So is there a different level of comfort for you with MMA, with all the martial arts background that you have versus just going to boxing where you're relying just on your hands?
Yeah, I'm not uncomfortable on the ground. I like going to the ground. I like the judo's a lot of fun. I like throwing people a lot. But Yeah, I guess there's a comfort in that. I could agree with that part.
Returning to the cage here locally, there's been a lot of traveling, coming back up to one of your favorite spots, Albuquerque. How do you feel about this opportunity?
Oh, I'm so excited. Um, I was really happy whenever the promotion called me up and talked to me about doing it. I've been trying to fight in New Mexico ever since they started fighting in New Mexico. Every time I found out there's a fight going, I hit up the promoter trying to get it in the fight. Um, I've I love fighting in my home state. I would like to fight in Cruces again, but you got to get promotions to want to come down here. Um, and Albuquerque is such a fun fight town. Everybody talks smack. Everybody has a you have a lot of fun while you're fighting. The crowd's nice and loud, and either they're cheering for you or against you, but it doesn't matter. They're having fun, and you're part of it. It's a lot of fun. I like that a lot.
On November 26th, the opponent's going to be Sidiah Parker, a heavy-handed foe, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you're used to it by now. What do you think of the challenge in front of you?
Oh, I love it. Sadaya is so dangerous, so dangerous. I fought him like 6 years ago. I think it was 2016. Me and him fought, and I broke his nose, and he slammed me up against a cage and controlled me a lot. And I was working with a different fight team, and so hopefully, my new fight team will be able to recognize the differences between our skills. Our stand up, I mean, he kicked me really good. I punched him really good, and he took me down once out of all the times he tried, and we had a fun time. He's a tough cat, and I've sparred with him since. I know he has great skills. That's what's exciting to me. I don't want. I mean, it's nice to win. It's really nice to win, but I like the challenge of finding somebody that's a tough match and testing my skills against their skills. And Sadia's a tough match, man. He's not gonna be a walk in the park for anybody,
It's a
even
shade.
at the heavier weight.
It's a shade over 6 years. Do you feel like you can get ready for the same guy from 6 years ago, or that would be a trap?
That would be a trap. Um, if he's anything like me, which he is, um, he evolves. We all evolve. I mean, we've all gotten better. We've gotten many more fights. I think the last time we fought, I had 6 or 8 fights, and he had 14 fights. Now I have 27 fights, and he has 25 or 26 fights. And that's not including my boxing. So we've both been super busy, been fighting a lot. And so if you don't evolve while you're fighting, something's wrong with you. And so I think both of us have evolved a lot. And we have a comfortability that, oh, we fought it with each other. I recognize his power. He recognizes mine. And, but we're still going to have to go out there and fight a new person.
And where can you tell us without letting too many secrets out, too many of those cats out of the bag, where you feel like you've evolved, improved the most over these, well, not even 6 years, because that's a huge amount of time, but let's just go over the last 12 months.
All right. Well, last 12 months, I've become a first degree black belt instead of just a black belt. I've moved up to first degree. My ground game is really solid on the bottom and on the top. Um, my wrestling is still my wrestling. It's not the greatest in the world, but I am a brown belt in judo, and I'm still keeping that polished up. And my striking, because of the last 12 months, have been all hands. I feel my hands are going to be there. Um, he's a his kicks are heavy. I've felt them. I think you're at the fight where he kicked me in the ribs, and I had a big old footprint across him for a while. But um, you know, I'm I think the biggest thing that's changed is my mindset in the last 12 months or so, learning what I need to do to push myself past the point. I already know that he's going to have the cardio for all 3 rounds. I'm going to have the cardio for all 3 rounds. So now what do we have to do? How do we go from there? That's the biggest challenge.
You've been fighting as a heavyweight boxer. Uh, does 220 pounds favor you? Is it a non-sticking point?
Well, I really hope it does favor me, but the he's walking around 215 ish, right? So I told him, I said I could get to 215, But if he's not going to struggle, then I shouldn't struggle very much either. So let's do 220, and they accepted it. So I hope that that's a favorable thing for me. Not a hard cut. Like normally I go down to 205, and so I don't need to um, cut hard at all. I just need to go out there and perform. And Sidiah's not cutting, so he's going to get to perform without having to have the the challenges of cutting weight, which he normally goes to 85. So and he cuts 30 pounds, that's tough, man.
We know that if nothing else, you're a showman. Always love the
Thank you.
entrance. And as you get older now and you're hitting that worm out there, is that almost more of like a warm up, getting the whole body limber when you're hitting that right before the fight?
It's always been a warm up from the beginning. My coach, the first time I did it, my coach goes, "They don't know you're a southpaw. We don't want them to see that you're a southpaw, but I want you to move, keep yourself warm." And I was like, "Well, how do you want me to do that?" He goes, "I don't care. Just do something." I said, "Well, can I dance?" He goes, "Yeah, dance." Right. So I was like, "All right." And so the guy came out to an Eminem song, and I danced to it. And we were in Phoenix, and the guy was from Phoenix, and I stole the crowd from him. And I was like, turning told my coach, "I stole the crowd." He's like, "Keep your head in the cage." I was like, "I'm dancing from now on." and but I really it is. It's about me keeping warm and relaxed, and when I'm happy and having fun, I'm a lot more dangerous of a fighter than whenever I'm stressed out or angry at the other fighter or anything like that. So I try to keep myself happy.
Keeping yourself happy, being there, dancing. Is that almost also a way of fighting off the nerves a little bit longer or pressing through them?
Pressing through them, I would say more than fighting them off. Um, if I mean, this is my 42nd professional fight coming up between boxing and MMA. There's no way that I can say that I don't have any nerves. Anybody that says that probably shouldn't be fighting anymore. There's nerves are a big part of it, but learning how to handle that is really important too.
41 fights. Can you believe that? Like you said, 6 years ago, you were like 9 fights into it. So
Yeah,
talk about experience. You've been on this torrid pace the last couple of years.
right. And during that whole time, I popped my Achilles as well, so I was out for a year. So it's been crazy.
Okay, so you got wild stories. Which one that we haven't heard do you think takes the cake? Which one sets at the top of the Randy McCarty wild fight stories?
uh, so I was called for a fight in Midland, Texas, and they flew me in and we landed. I go to cut weight. I get down. I was going at 85. I got down to 185, and I go to the weigh-ins. They said, "Hey, go to the back, take pictures, blah blah blah." So I did that. Then I'm waiting for the guy. My guy that I was fighting was from Missouri. He comes in. They the he asks everybody where he goes. They told him to go to the back, take pictures. As soon as he walks to the back, 15 FBI agents come through the door. I was like, "What?" And he was Missouri's top 10 most wanted, and they saw his picture on the screen. The FBI agent didn't recognize him, and so they caught him right before the fight. So I didn't even get to fight because of it. But I was like, "No, let him fight. I won't let him out of the cage. Come on, let him fight." The FBI agent, "Sir, we cannot do that."
And that takes the cake right there at the top of Randy's wild fight stories. I didn't think we'd get FBI involvement, but wow. Good to hear they weren't looking for you.
Right, right.
Sidiah Parker, this fight, you said you guys have hit takedowns. He tried to take you down. Did that surprise you first time? He's known as a striker that he put that into action.
No, his coach was screaming for it, and um, it worked. I mean, I defended the takedowns well, but I did not try to take him down, and I at all. Like that whole fight, I had zero attempts, and shame on me. Really. I mean, looking back at the fight, he won by split decision, but realistically, it shouldn't have been a split decision. He should have won because he controlled the cage. We struck basically the same, but he was trying more stuff than I was. He was trying to take me down. He was trying to make it a well-rounded fight, and I was standing in the middle and fighting with him. you know, so got to be a little smarter about how we deal with it and play the games of MMA style um, scoring as well. So that's exactly what he should have done.
Do you feel that the rematch factor is does it add any motivation to you? He's already got one on the win column on you.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to make it 1-1 for him. With him, I have no angst against this man. He's a tough fighter, and I like him a lot. But all of my friends, my best friends, we punch each other all the time, so it doesn't hurt my feelings to punch somebody I like. The only other time I've had a rematch, I did really good in it. I felt I already knew what I knew about the guy. Like there wasn't a lot of surprises. There wasn't a lot of I got to figure this guy out for the first 3 minutes. Um, I figured him out and before we started, and that's one thing that's nice is yes, he is evolved. Yes, he's going to be a different fighter. He's going to be tougher. However, I also know him. I know him somewhat at least, and he knows me somewhat. So there's kind of like a when you're sparring with somebody compared to when you're fighting them, there's a little bit more relaxed time in that aspect in your own mind, at least in my mind, at least it is.
The fight's coming up. Is it a big sacrifice to have to pass over the Thanksgiving meal?
Nah, my kids are grown and have their own kids, and um, the my family's we all go to my aunt's house and visit and everything. So I'll go visit them, and I'll probably have a little bit of asparagus, but I don't get to have a huge meal and all these pies and all this type of stuff. But realistically, like I want that stuff, but every time I've gotten it, I have like a piece of pie, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really full. I'm really full. So I don't really get as to eat like I used to when I was a kid.
And I feel like it's a pretty good chance the main event, this could be fight of the night.
And I hope so. He's not a person to shy away from fights, and as far as I know, I don't think I am either. And I think it's exciting. He's technical. I'm technical. We're gonna have fun, man. I think it's gonna be a fun match.
Randy McCarty, sir, thank you for the time.
Anytime. Thank you, sir.